His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, visited the General Headquarters of the Bahrain Defense Force. Upon arrival, His Majesty the King was received by the BDF Commander-in-Chief Field Marshal Sheikh Khalifa bin Ahmed Al Khalifa. His Majesty was accompanied by the National Security Advisor and Royal Guard Commander, Lieutenant General His Highness Sheikh Nasser bin Hamad Al Khalifa, and the Commander of the Royal Guard Special Force, Colonel His Highness Sheikh Khalid bin Hamad Al Khalifa. Also present were the Minister of Defense Affairs, Lieutenant General Abdullah bin Hassan al-Naimi, the BDF Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Diab bin Sagr al-Naimi, and senior BDF officers. His Majesty the King was briefed on the future plans to further develop BDF units. His Majesty the King expressed his appreciation and pride in all the brave members of the BDF for their constant keenness on carrying out their national duties with courage and sincere determination, which has proven in the tasks entrusted to them for the benefit and security of the kingdom and its citizens. His Majesty praised the success of Bahrain's ongoing initiatives to provide urgent humanitarian aid to support Palestinians in Gaza, thanking all those who contributed. His Majesty stressed that the kingdom stands with Palestine in this difficult time, expressing hope for security and peace in the region and the world. His Majesty the King asked senior BDF officers to convey his greetings to all BDF staff in their various work sites inside and outside the country. The participation and meetings of His Majesty the King in various countries of the world in various forums affirm Bahrain's approach that calls for peace, peaceful coexistence and resolving conflicts by peaceful means for the interest of humanity and the kingdom. More in this report.
His Majesty the King led high-level diplomatic efforts in 1 week where he visited 3 continents in order to convey the kingdom's message to the world. From the United Kingdom, His Majesty the King began his tour where he met with His Majesty the King of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, where the close historical partnership between the 2 countries and ways to support and develop them in various fields were reviewed. His Majesty also held discussions with senior officials in the British government, discussing developments in the region and the international arenas, including the Israeli war on the Gaza Strip, the efforts to stop the military escalation, the priority of protecting civilians and opening safe corridors that guarantee the arrival of humanitarian relief and medical aid, in addition to the efforts made to achieve a just and lasting peace. Then His Majesty headed to Italy and the Vatican in order to strengthen historical ties with the country in a manner that contributes to consolidating the concepts of harmony and peace and promoting global peace and stability, where His Holiness Pope Francis expressed thanks and appreciation to His Majesty for his benevolent efforts and noble humanitarian initiatives, hailing Bahrain's efforts to host global conferences aimed at promoting dialogue, mutual respect, tolerance, and religious freedom. In Italy, His Majesty met with the Italian President, where they reviewed the developments in the Gaza Strip. His Majesty affirmed Bahrain's approach, which calls for enhancing security and stability and consolidating peace that is achieved by giving the brotherly Palestinian people their legitimate rights and finding a just solution for the Palestinian cause in a manner that guarantees the right of the brotherly Palestinian people to establish their independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital. and to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, where His Majesty headed Bahrain's delegation at the ASEAN Gulf Summit, in which he stressed during his speech the necessity of stopping all conflicts that threaten human security and civilizational development, and that the Palestinian cause will remain a major priority for the Kingdom, expressing thanks and appreciation to Saudi Arabia for its sincere efforts in supporting collective action. His Majesty the King also participated in the Cairo Summit for Peace to discuss developments in the future of the Palestinian cause. In the United Arab Emirates, His Majesty met with the President of the UAE and the Vice President, Prime Minister, and ruler of Dubai, where they reviewed the close historical fraternal relations and ways to support and strengthen them, in addition to discussing the latest regional and international developments.
The National Initiative for Agricultural Development The National Initiative for Agricultural Development announced the winners of its third and fourth rounds of the King Hamad Prize for Agricultural Development. The Minister of Municipalities Affairs and Agriculture, Engineer Wa'il Mbarak, honored the winners of the prize, which was allocated to honor the Bahraini product and support the national capabilities of agricultural project owners and workers in this field, in addition to encouraging research and studies in support of the agricultural sector. During the ceremony, which was attended by a number of ministers and senior officials from government and private institutions, the Secretary General of the National Initiative for Agricultural Development, Sheikha Maram bint Isa Al Khalifa, delivered a speech in which she expressed appreciation to Her Royal Highness, the wife of His Majesty the King and President of the initiative's Advisory Council, for supporting and following up on the agricultural sector. Sheikh Maram also conveyed the congratulations and appreciation of Her Royal Highness to all participants and sponsors from officials and academic institutions. The Secretary General of the Council of Representatives, Councillor Rashid Mohammed Bounajma, participated in the meetings of the Association of Secretaries General of National Parliaments of the IPU. He affirmed that the press in Bahrain has absolute freedom to cover news of the Shura and Representatives Councils, and that attending and recording the sessions is available to all media representatives. He said that the Secretariat supported the allocation of offices for members of their departments to communicate directly with citizens, in addition to training offices, employees on community and media communication. The Secretary General stated that the Legislative Authority is keen to enhance parliamentary culture among various segments of society by organizing youth parliament sessions on a regular basis. The Council of Representatives members Dr. Bassam Ismail al-Bin Mohammed and Hassan Ibrahim participated in the Young Parliamentarian Forum as part of the IPU General Assembly. Bahrain's parliamentary division affirmed that the sustainability of youth achievements and the national paths enhance the contributions of youth in vital areas and their pivotal and effective role in achieving development goals. They expressed pride in the growing rates of youth participation in national action within Team Bahrain and their keenness to exercise their political, social and civil rights guaranteed by the National Action Charter and Bahrain's Constitution, noting that the Legislative Authority supports investments in the youth. The Parliamentary Division delegation participated in the meeting of the Committee on Democracy and Human Rights, devoted to discussing the draft resolution on the role of the Parliament in reducing orphan trafficking. The delegation affirmed that His Majesty the King's support and care to orphans in Bahrain embodies the paternal care and national concern for all orphans, expressing pride in the initiatives implemented by the government headed by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince and Prime Minister to advance children and orphans, protect them and ensure a bright future for them. Representatives Council member and the Parliamentary Division delegation member Mariam Al-Dha'in participated in a joint workshop between the Inter-Parliamentary Union and UNICEF titled The Role of Parliaments in Securing Effective Public Expenditure for Children's Rights. She stressed that Bahrain considers education a basic right for every child, and free and compulsory basic education is provided to all, and the government also adopts innovative educational programs with the aim of enhancing the skills of children, including orphans. Al-Dha'in said that Bahrain has proved strict laws to combat trafficking in persons, calling for drafting legislation that guarantees the protection of orphans from all forms of violence in cyberspace. The member of the Parliamentary Division delegation Representative Hassan Ibrahim participated in 2 discussion panels hosted by the IPU Committee on Peace and International Security. The representative stressed that the legislative and executive authorities are working together to strengthen the fight against corruption and consolidate transparency based on advanced and comprehensive legal frameworks, noting that the national legislative system is considered one of the model systems in the fight against corruption. He affirmed that the Bahraini Penal Code is considered one of the most advanced and comprehensive, stressing that it is subject to continuous review by the Legislative Authority. The Medical Services of King Hamad University Hospital KHUH held a meeting in the presence of the Secretary General of the Royal Humanitarian Foundation, Dr. Mustafa Sayed, the acting commander of KHUH, Colonel Sheikh Dr. Salman bin Mohammed bin Abdullah Al Khalifa, and the Executive Director and Head of Operations, Information and Communications Technology at Kuwait Finance House, Mohammed Fahmi Hamad, on the occasion of the RHF's delivery of insulin pumps to the medical services of the KHUH as part of the donation of the Kuwait Finance House. This is within the framework of the agreement concluded between the Foundation and the Medical Services of KHUH to install an insulin pump for children with type 1 diabetes and to train the children and their families to use it. Dr. Sayed praised the fruitful and ongoing cooperation between the RHF and the Royal Medical Services represented by KHUH and the BDF Hospital.